Well, Dr. Robinson, it's a pleasure having you today. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it, and love what Bellevue is shaping up to be. And I'm a resident of Bellevue, and I enjoy living here.
What neighborhood do you live in?
Downtown.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
so I think we might be neighbors.
Okay.
But yeah, tell us a little bit about how you started professionally, your background, how you grew up, and just what led you to getting into public service.
I am the third child of two highly successful children ahead of me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was probably, by my family, voted the least likely to succeed. And I was so fortunate to have the siblings that I have. And so I wasn't very ambitious. I went to college on a whim.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't plan to go to college.
Where'd you go to college?
I started at Chico State.
Okay.
And I just went there because my best friend was going there. It was the last day for applications, and she insisted I fill out a form. And so I just chose it random. I didn't know anything about anything. And I ended up going there. And I loved archaeology, so I randomly chose archaeology as my major.
Right.
And my family really came down on me and said, you can't take all these hieroglyphic classes. You have to take general ed for your first 2 years. And that so frustrated me that I emancipated myself financially and told them, if I pay for it myself, you can't tell me what to do.
Right.
So you
had a chip on his shoulder, it sounds like.
In those days, it was a lot easier to do things like that financially. But I worked really hard. I worked as a legal secretary, word processor in San Francisco for all my breaks.
Okay.
And I worked, 6 days a week, 10 hours a day, earned as much money as I could to pay for my living and my education. And I was doing that, and my second year of college, I got really, really, really sick. I had undiagnosed mononucleosis, and it went on for over 6 months, so that by the time they found it, I was super sick.
Wow. So what is that?
Well, you know what mono is, right?
Yeah.
I had that, but it went on undiagnosed for like 6 months. So all my intestines were enlarged.
Right.
And so I had to go home for a semester, and I don't even remember it. I was basically in bed for that whole time.
Wow.
And during that time, I came to the realization that you can have everything going for you. If you don't have your health, you have nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So it really changed my view of life, and I came back and switched my major to community services with a healthcare education emphasis. Did that. I won't go into the long story, but I met somebody who really inspired me to go into physical therapy.
Okay.
And so my senior year, I finished my degree. I went right back to school, got all my pre-med, and ended up going to Northwestern for physical therapy school. And then continued my education after that and ended up getting my doctorate years later.
And is that what led you to private practice?
So, yeah, I think what actually, I started my own business because I had children and I kind of wanted it all. I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom and I wanted to be a professional. And so I created a business where I just saw people in my home, only women, while I had babies.
Okay.
And then when my youngest went to kindergarten, I pitched a business model to a doctor's office. And by the time I got home, I had my first referral.
Wow.
And so I had a business for 25 years.
And where was it?
It was on the east side.
Okay.
And it allowed me to work 10 to 3 while my kids were in school. So they never even knew I worked.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I do the billing on the weekends. But that was great because I really wanted to spend the time with the kids and I wanted to work. So I did that. I got involved with government. I first got on the Bellevue Network on Aging, which was an advisory board to the city of Bellevue.
On
older adults.
Okay.
So basically, how do we make sure that we have active seniors? People who kind of don't stay active, don't stay connected to the community, don't stay feeling relevant about their purpose in life tend to have a lot more needs in the community, and a lot of 911 calls. We call them our frequent flyers. And, you know, if you don't know anybody to change a light bulb, it's really bad when your light goes out.
So they'll call
911.
Really?
The fire truck goes over and everything that needs to change their light bulb. So the Bellevue Network on Aging was kind of born out of, how do we keep people engaged in the community? How do we keep them connected? And how do we provide resources before it becomes critical for people? So that was really interesting. Did a lot of good work with that. Then the Parks Board opened on their board, and so I joined that. And so I ultimately became chair of the Bellevue Network on Aging. I became chair of the Parks Board. And it was while I was on the Parks Board and we were working on Maiden-Bower Bay Beach Park.
Yeah.
And, you know, they say nothing worthwhile is ever easy. And nothing great in Bellevue has ever happened without a battle from somebody. And there was a huge battle on that park from the people who lived in Maiden-Bower Bay and didn't want to share that little secluded spot with everybody else. And it was all asphalt. There was no public access to the water. They had a chain link fence at the end of, was it 99?
Yeah, and there was apartments there originally.
Yes, well, there still are. They didn't take any apartment downs yet.
Okay.
But thank you. I love the visuals. But we really wanted to open this up to the community to give everybody water access who didn't have it. And since I was a physical therapist, my biggest contribution was insisting on universal design for all our parks. So it used to be that all the able-bodied people would go up the stairs and go to the park, and then over by the dumpster, there was a carve-out, and people in wheelchairs would go that way. And it was just so not equitable and not the same experience that we just decided there's no reason to have separate entrances. You can make everything accessible. So this park, the downtown park with the west entrance now.
Yeah, with the ramp.
Yes, exactly. So every park that's been built since this is universal design. That's just the standard now. And it's really gratifying to see, you know, families that have adult children with severe disabilities and, you know, a lifetime of trying to find new things to do with them and entertain them that works for them. And to see them able to come out and take this big, long roll throughout the park and enjoy it every hour of the day that it's open is really gratifying.
Yeah, it's interesting because, you know, as I go to that park just about every weekend, right? I walk my 2-year-old over there. And it never occurred to me that there's that type of thought that goes into designing a park.
Yeah, I mean, you don't notice it. It's just easy.
It's just, they open it up and we can enjoy it.
But what happened is there were 2 council members who really supported the community that was fighting this. And so they were liaisons to 2 key committees that were going to make decisions on this. And they took people off the boards and commissions and replaced them with their friends. And so it wasn't a fair process. No one got interviewed. There weren't applications and like we normally do. And there was nothing in the rules that said you couldn't do that. And I thought, I'm going to change that. So that was my real motivation for wanting to run, although I never said that. Never said that to anybody. And I was like, again, the least likely person to win because there was an old white guy who'd been on for, you know, like 30 years or something, really long time, very beloved guy. I voted for him too. And I ran against him. And nobody thought it would be possible. But the funny thing is, in my business, I had been working with the population that votes the most, which is the 60-year-olds and plus. That's my clientele. So I had a ton of people who knew me in the community.
And they were excited that you're running.
Yeah, they recognized my name on the ballot, so I won quite handily for my first election, which was a surprise.
Yeah. And this is your first term, correct?
No, this is my third term.
Third term?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
My first election was 2013.
2013, okay. So what keeps you going then?
Oh, well, the thing that I love about Bellevue, and I come to this job with love for my city, and what I love is how responsive it is. It's always been responsive to me as a resident. When I, like there are some, I told you that I raised my family in Woodridge. There's a bunch of trails there called the McTavish property trails, and I worked very hard to create those trails as a system instead of them becoming condos. Yeah. Which is weird because I'm really into housing, so it seems odd that I would have fought housing. But they didn't have access to Richards Road or Lake Hills Connector, either of those two, and so they really couldn't do what they wanted to do, and everything was at a standstill. Okay. And so it was better just to do something positive for the community. So the city and a land trust came together and bought that land. Yeah. So you said what keeps me going? Yeah. What keeps me motivated is just I ran with the premise that I wanted to create equitable opportunity for people to have a high quality of life in Bellevue, and just that hope and that potential that we have to do that for people, and I see it happening more and more for people, and that's my motivation, I guess.
And I can attest to that as a resident, right? And especially seeing what's going on in Seattle versus what we experience, right? It's just almost night and day.
Hopefully that changes. One thing that I think a lot about in terms of health that I don't think the average person thinks about is this concept of community health. So having a clean environment, clean air, clean water, which seems like obvious, right? Yeah. Well, look at Flint, Michigan. Look at how that polluted water has, challenged a lifetime of people. So it's not an obvious thing at all, especially with the water. Having access to an excellent public school system. Bellevue is very unique in their school district. They're one of the top in the country. Having access to parks and green spaces. We have more parks per capita than almost any other city in the country. Having access to healthcare. We have amazing healthcare in this area. Having high public safety. The thing I love about Bellevue, there's no neighborhood that we consider a bad neighborhood. Every neighborhood has a good school. Access to parks and green spaces, high public safety. So that to me is the goal.
Why do you think that is, though? I mean, why aren't other cities geared that way?
I don't know if there's a focus on it. I think a lot of times people lose the forest for the trees. To me, policy is easy. What do you want to have at the end of the day? At the end of this, what is the outcome you want to see? And then you create the path to get there. Well, that's not often how it goes. And people start zigzagging all over the place, and they're listening to this group and that group, and they lose the whole purpose of the initiative.
So that overarching goal, right?
Yeah. What do you want to accomplish at the end of this?
So what would you say is Bellevue's long-term vision?
Let's
say if we were looking 10 years ahead. Right?
Well, I mean, to put it simply, and let me close my comment on the public health, community health. We have super high community health rating in the country, and nobody knows that. But we're out of 100, we're like 99. Wow! So that is what I think sets Bellevue apart from a lot of other cities, is that we're intentional about this. But the future, I think, simply put, it's to kind of retain the things that everybody loves while we accommodate more people.
Right. And what kind of people are moving in? I mean,
well, hopefully, I hope this is true.
Housing is pretty pricey.
Well, we have put in more affordable housing in the last 4 years. We've doubled our affordable housing stock, and we have plans to do far more than that. So we're bringing in a wide variety of people. We have 100 languages spoken in Bellevue.
Really?
We are one of the most diverse cities in Washington State. And yet, with all this diversity, and you sit down with people, we have things called community conversations at City Hall, where we invite people to sit down and talk about their experience. Like, how did you get to Bellevue? Why did you come to Bellevue? Why did you leave? Where you left? The variety of reasons that people are here is amazing. And I mean, there's some really incredible stories of people escaping life-threatening situations, or people who just, I just put my finger on a map and this is where I landed. Wow. But I will say that the thing that really ties people together for the most part is the appreciation of an excellent public school system. So they value
a lot of families.
They value education, and that's a great thing to have in common. Those make good neighbors.
Oh yeah, and it's good also to grow up with with like-minded kids and whatnot. And
I don't know if they're like-minded, because they're really different. They are really different. But even the way we handle diversity in Bellevue is unique. You look at Denmark.
Yeah.
Was reading a very interesting article about Denmark, and I love Denmark, about they have a huge influx of immigrants who are living together, not learning the language, not working, free housing, free services, and just kind of have their own community.
Really?
Yeah. And
how do they make that possible?
Well, it's not working for them.
Okay.
And so they're trying to break that up. They're trying to force people to separate and assimilate and have to learn Danish and have to be, a contributing part of the community. In Bellevue, here we are creating these immersion schools. I don't know if you know how many we have, but see if I can remember. We have French, we have Spanish, we have Mandarin.
I know there's a Japanese.
We have Japanese, thank you. We have Arabic. We're going to have Korean, and we're going to have Hindu.
So how do people learn
Did I say
this?
Korean? And also Korean.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's embracing these cultures. Yeah. And you have people who grew up in those, or were born in those countries, who are continuing their language and culture. But you have a lot of people who just want to learn that. And somehow everybody becomes a strong part of the community and feels like they belong. And that is what makes the fabric so rich in Bellevue.
But how do people learn about that those schools are there?
Oh, I think it's pretty obvious if you talk to the school district.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the city certainly supports all the festivals and, this separation of church and state thing. I remember when we first got on the council, we didn't want to financially support with staff or with funding anything that had to do with religion. We realized that religion is culture.
Yeah.
And so...
And especially in some of the communities that we serve here.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And so we changed that. And so we do support these events and help them find space and help, we provide the public safety. Everybody's there in case anybody needs help or anything, and we provide the infrastructure and do all we can to make these events successful, and they're open to everybody. And I don't know how much you've experienced it, but in one day I went to a festival that was from a certain part of India.
Really?
And I got to, see the costumes, hear the music, see the dance, eat the food. I bought some things. And then I went to the Ukrainian festival. That was downtown.
I was there.
Yeah. Again, ate the food, listened to the music, met people, saw the traditional costuming. This is all in one day. And then I went to another Indian festival that was a different part of India.
Wow.
Totally different experience. And I made friends at every event and really had a wonderful time. And I just thought, gosh, most people have to travel all around the world to have this experience. And I get to do it riding my bike from one event to the other. It's incredible. Yeah.
So how do you plan to support and, or how does Bellevue plan to continue to support education, especially considering the fact that, you know, there was a closing of elementary school, right? So that tells me there's a demographics issue where the number of kids are declining in the area.
Well, it kind of looks that way on the outside, but
Right.
I think actually what happened is during COVID, I thought it was that everybody went to private school. They actually went to homeschooling. So those families are still here in our neighborhoods.
But they're just homeschooling.
They're homeschooling.
Really?
So we lost a lot of students. You know, even though that we have challenges from COVID still, and, you know, obviously about the office space challenge that we have, this year alone we welcomed over 750 new businesses to Bellevue. Bellevue is still attracting business. It's still attracting people.
But they're just not utilizing the space?
They
they're using it differently.
They are, but we've had some major exits like Microsoft, which was no surprise to us. When they redid their campus in Redmond, we assumed that it would be a best business decision not to be spread out and just everybody be in that one space. So sure enough, they when their leases were up, they did not renew. That's a bigger conversation than the question you just asked me, which is about education. And you know, the school district is separate from the city council. In the city, we partner with them. We share resources, and the Bellevue School District has an incredible new superintendent, Kelly Aramaki. And if you haven't had a chance to talk to him, I would highly recommend him. He is just so inspiring and such a breath of fresh air. I have a lot of confidence in him. And I think, you know, just making the schools accessible to people, the good news is they've opened enrollment, which they haven't done for years, which means you can live in Seattle and your kid can go to Bellevue schools.
I think that's amazing.
It is amazing. It's an incredible opportunity for a family who wants an excellent public education for their kid. And that's not always easy to find in Seattle. At least when I lived there, it wasn't. So I welcome those families to come over here. We're seeing a lot of that happening, and so wonderful.
Well, people want good schools and safety, right?
Yeah, and it's free.
Yeah. So going back to 750 new businesses being welcomed, do you see more coming, and how are they utilizing the space, right? Because you hear these stories around Bellevue just being around that, you know, big companies not taking up space, so now you have a vacant building.
Some of them aren't, you're right. Some of them are not filling as quickly as they plan, but they will. But we are also signing major leases as we speak. So we haven't had to reduce the price of office space. It's not like a fire sale going on. And the thing is, we continue to be a place where people want to be. And as long as we are that, then people will choose to be here. So whether it's the quality of life for the worker or for their family, my goal is to get more people living where they work. So pre-pandemic, only 10% of the people who work downtown lived in Bellevue.
Really? I didn't know that.
That's like 100,000 people commuting in and out every day. So we've been madly trying to build more housing. And one thing the council voted to do was to allow development that had been permitted for office to convert to residential. So you can't do it after it's been built, but for the ones that hadn't developed yet.
So it's like, hey, repurpose this for housing.
Yeah. So we gave them extra height, I think a larger floor plate, but they, in turn, in order to utilize that, have to put some affordable housing in. So it was a win-win.
How does that work, affordable housing?
How does it work?
Yeah.
Like, what's the incentive? There's a lot of different incentives in there, and the city of Bellevue has created an entire affordable housing program that has about 20 different tools that can be used to put in affordable housing. So MFT, which is a multifamily property tax exemption that lasts for 12 years, and every city can come up with their own recipe of what a developer has to do to be exempt from paying property tax for 12 years.
Okay.
And so the Bellevue, the one we came up with, this was great because I knew I wanted MFTE in there. I worked with the affordable housing folks, and we put a tool in that was never used. Nobody used it.
Is it because they didn't know about it?
I don't know. It just it never worked. And so some people said it wasn't an incentive, and other people said they'd never heard about it, but it wasn't very effective. And so we went back, and I asked the market rate developers and the affordable housing experts to come to the table together and figure out something that's going to work for everybody. And there's a woman who's a consultant named Natalie Quick who came up with the perfect
like win-win for both parties
compromise. And it's very convoluted, which I will not be able to articulate it very well. But it talks about parking requirements. It talks about size, how many units, at what price, at what discount, they would get, or we call it area median income, so 80% area median income or 65%, whatever. But we, they suggested this. They came back to us and said, here's what we recommend. So we voted it in very easily. And it has been so successful. Every single developer, except I think 2, has used it.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
So we have rapidly been increasing our affordable housing. And people say, well, it's only temporary. It's only for 12 years. Well, after 12 years, a building is going to be less expensive. So in some ways, it retains its affordability.
Yeah.
But hopefully, you continue to build it. You're always replacing it with more
supply,
MFTE. Yeah. So I don't know. We'll have to see how that. But that's just one tool. We have a bunch of other tools as well. We're trying to expedite building permits for any development that has affordable housing. Put them at the top of the queue. Okay. And that saves them money. The sooner they can permit, the sooner they can get building. So that's.
And the sooner their product is on the market.
Right.
Right. Because that's one of the things I hear about with some of my friends in that space is that the permitting process can be challenging.
Yes, it can be very onerous, inconsistent, and at the end of the day, very expensive, and that's passed on to the tenants.
Yep.
We've reduced fees, certain kinds of fees if you put in affordable housing. Gosh, I'm sorry if I'm blanking out. We've partnered with Amazon, we've partnered with Microsoft and King County Housing Authority to do very low interest loans to buy existing older affordable housing, like apartments that are going to be torn down and redeveloped for high end. They've purchased them and held on to them as permanent low income housing and rehabbed them at the same time so they look brand new. That's incredible. You're saving the landfill from the demolition. You're saving entire communities. They keep all the people in them.
Yep.
And so, and it's, it kind of saves the character of the neighborhood because everybody is already used to this one building being here the way it is.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're very passionate about, the things that you're sharing.
I am very passionate about housing.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest challenge.
Where did that come from?
Probably my husband.
Yeah. Is he in development or?
He is in affordable housing for like 46 years. He's worked in affordable housing.
Okay.
Funny thing is we don't agree on everything.
Yeah.
At all.
Shocking.
So, he's a property guy. He's a finance guy. And I'm a policy person. And so when I create a roadmap for how I think we're going to get something done, he's like, well, where's the budget? If you don't have a budget, there's no point. Right. And I'm like, well, there's no point in getting a budget if you don't have a plan.
Right.
So,
which is true. I mean, you have to have the end in mind, right?
I have to say I won that argument because we created the affordable housing strategy. That was really a big goal of mine, is to have a plan and to have all these tools that we could choose from. And it wasn't just my husband. A lot of people said, if you don't have a budget, there's no point. And the 1590 bill came up
What is that?
Okay, so 1590, House Bill 1590, what gave the county an opportunity to take like a 0.01% chunk of your sales tax, pool all that money and put it towards really low income housing, like 0 to 30% AMI, rental assistance, things that are helping the housing that's the hardest to create. And the county had a deadline by which they would vote this in councilmanically, which means it's not a vote of the people, it's just the council.
Okay.
And for whatever reason, they didn't do it. So it was on a Friday, they missed the deadline. I immediately got a call from our political people in the city, and they're like, you've got to do this Monday, because the law says if the county doesn't do it, the city can take it themselves.
I see.
So it was kind of a gutsy thing to do. Wasn't my best county PR move, but we voted to take it ourselves. And so we get, I think, $8 million a year out of that. And we could bank on it, and we could get a whole, like, $21 million a year if we wanted to.
Wow.
But we're getting $8 million a year, and that has gone into creating a new men's shelter in Eastgate, new supportive housing across the street.
That's what was going up.
Yep.
Right there.
Yep,
Yeah,
right around the corner from you. Supportive housing with all the services, counseling, job training, drug rehab, all paying living wages to the staff.
Wow.
So our facility is fully staffed, where other cities are not able to staff theirs. And then up the street, we have affordable housing. So market rate and some below that. And, you know, now we can say you can't camp on the sidewalk because we have a shelter.
Yeah.
So if you choose to be outside, and it's not choice for many people, they don't have housing.
Right.
So let's get you in the
mental health probably.
Right. Well, let's get you in that's a big story, which would take a long time to talk about, but let's get you in the shelter. Let's get you a social security number. Let's get you a mailing address. Let's give you a pen and a hard surface to fill out forms, and let's get you somebody who helps you fill out the forms. Let's get you on Medicaid so you have health care. Let's get you on a list that says you're going to go into permanent supportive housing. And let's get you all the services you need to find out what your skill set is and get you back on your feet.
And how often do you get a yes on that?
You know, they say it takes 13 points of contact for someone to say yes. So that means our police, our first responders, they're not trained to do this. We're going around saying, hey, buddy, you know, how about you let us help you pack all your stuff up? And I'll take, no. And then the guy would move, and then they'd find him again. They say, hey, how about now? No. But the 13th time, that person on average will say, okay. And so since we have been doing this, and I mean, this is another budget item, but we've put in a, we'll call it a CCAT program. And you'll have to remind me what CCAT stands for, but it's a crisis care response team of a social worker and a police officer.
Yeah, that's what we saw the Fire Foundation, the foundation breakfast, right? You guys were talking about that.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right. And they are not in uniform. They have a special uniform, and I think they're in unmarked cars. But the interesting thing is they say that 50% of the time the family wants a police officer, and 50% of the time they want a social worker.
Interesting.
And they have both there. And, you know, knock on wood, so far we have not had any negative incidents. It has been so successful for our community.
Wow.
And if it's just, you know, a minor thing where somebody's, you know, has mental health issues or has a temporary problem, the social worker can then continue to go out and work with them. If it's somebody like a domestic violence situation, the person, you know, has a firearm and they don't actually qualify for a firearm, we have somebody there who can handle that situation. And I'll tell you, in my business, I did home care. That's what I did.
Yeah.
And walking into a home for the first time, you don't know what's behind that front door.
Yeah.
Usually it was a sweet old person, you know, that's so no big deal, but you never knew.
Yeah.
And I'll just never forget in Bellevue going into somebody's home, and the lady was just so nervous. And about half an hour into the evaluation, she said, I have to tell you, my adult son has a rifle in the bedroom, and he's having a mental health crisis.
Wow.
And I have 2 young kids. Yeah. And I'm like, how quickly can I get myself out of here? And what do I do with my patient? Yeah. And I asked her if I said, I'm going to leave. If you'd like to come with me, I will take you. And she said no. So I got in the car and I called 911, and I just got the heck out of there. Yeah. So even though there was a group of people in the community and a number of council members who really wanted to only send social workers, I was absolutely opposed to that, and so were the social workers. Yeah. They want that person with them because you don't know.
You don't know, and also, you know, when you think about it, it's the training. Social worker is trained to talk to people, help people. They're not there to defend or protect themselves, right? Nor are they trained to protect themselves. Nope. And it's a different response system when your life is threatened. Whereas a police officer, he's gone through that training, but he hasn't gone through the social aspect of the training.
To be on that team, they do have to go through special training, but not to the extent of a social worker, to your point.
Yeah, and I have some friends that teach at the academy.
Oh, you do?
Self-defense.
Nice. I've taken that course.
Yeah, you probably meant that maybe.
Yeah, want to try it?
Yeah,
I feel kind of good about it. I know what to do now. But
put me in an arm lock.
Well, no, I would just bear hug you and like give you alligator arms. But the other thing that we have is we have homeless outreach coordinators. And one thing that people who live in Bellevue should know about is the My Bellevue app. Do you have that on your phone?
Nope. Okay. I will download it now.
Got to download that, and you will find that on there it says report something, and you click on that, and it gives you a list of things to report. And one is homeless outreach. So you click on that, and if you, let's say I use this all the time because I want to help as many people as we can. So there's some person sleeping on the park bench with 3 grocery carts full of things, and I'll walk by and I'll go, I don't ever talk to them, the people, because I find that does not go well. Right. It sounds very judgy when you go up to somebody and say, hey, you don't think you need help, but I think you need help. Yeah. So, but what I do is I go on that and I click outreach coordinator, and it drops a pin on a map where you are. And then you just kind of describe the situation, and within within a day that somebody is out there to talk to them.
Big shout out and a huge thank you to Zeacon for making this happen. They have an amazing platform. Check out their website, zeacon.com, zeacon.com. So what, going back to, the housing and whatnot, what initiatives are you championing to promote, or is Bellevue to promote sustainability in the environment?
Well, right now we're working on tree codes, and I'm super excited about that. We have, I think, very, very liberal tree codes, and we've got to find that sweet spot between allowing development and preserving trees. So what's happening now is builders are going into neighborhoods with a lot of trees like Enitai and just clear cutting the lot. So the tree codes, we actually hired staff and we have a dedicated person working on these tree codes, and I just saw what they're proposing, and it will go through the planning commission, it will go to the public, people get to weigh in on it. You'll have the master builders, talking, and we want to hear from them, of course, but there's so much we can do.
Oh yeah. Have you been to Singapore?
No.
Have you seen the skyscraper?
Oh, I know what you're talking about, like the living buildings where they have all the trees on the decks and everything. Yeah. That's amazing.
On almost every skyscraper there.
So Kemper has a a development he's planning just north of downtown Park, where Penny's used to be, and that's what it looks like.
Okay, because the first run of his buildings that I saw were it was just buildings, so I didn't see any trees. So did he send out a new revised plan where there's more foliage?
The one that I saw was like a tiered, and every terrace had just a forest of trees on it. It's really stunning.
So probably modeled after a lot of the buildings in Singapore.
It looked very similar to what the pictures I've seen.
Because the fighter that I train with, that I coach, he fought in Singapore, right? And the first time I went there, it's like, wow, this is beautiful, and it keeps the air clean.
Yeah.
You know.
No, it's all fantastic. Yeah, his looks like the one on the right.
Okay.
We have a lot more roof gardens in Bellevue than we used to. But back to sustainability, I mean, there's a million things I could talk about. We have lots of initiatives we're working on, trying to get people to exchange for heat pumps.
Okay.
There's a big incentive program going on with that.
I remember reading about that the other day.
In partnership with PSE. But one thing I'm super excited about is Wilburton. So Wilburton is the neighborhood where Home Depot is.
Okay.
And Wilburton used to be the big city.
Really?
Yeah, the turn of the century.
Yeah.
So all the farming, that was the hub for all the farms in Bellevue.
I didn't know that.
They had their own railroad station. The tracks we've now turned into a pedestrian bike path. But Wilburton was just this, the kind of the chief neighborhood of the
right there
area. And then when we put 405 in it, it completely put a wall between Wilburton. And so it's interesting when you go to the Botanical Gardens, that's on Main Street.
Yeah.
It's the same Main Street as Old Main.
Okay.
But you would never think they were connected, right?
Yeah, because they're not.
Yeah, because they're not. Not without a lot of work. And so we are replanning Wilburton, and it's basically along 116th up to where Home Depot is. Okay. Not the residential area. And the developer who owns a lot of property there, he wants to put an eco district in. What is that? An eco district would be what he's looking at is a very deep sewer pipe that retains heat, and you can use the thermal energy to heat the water that people will use, so you don't have to use gas. We're increasing the heights and the density, and I'm just one council member. I don't have a stronger vote than any of the other. Okay. So I'm just talking about my own goals for this area, and we're taking input from residents and businesses and everybody. And you can go online at the City of Bellevue and weigh in on what you want to see in Wilburton. But here's what I want to see. I want to see a truly walkable community where you could, if you chose, live there without a car. I want to see buildings that are environmentally progressive. I would love to do a design competition like they did in Malmö, Sweden. Really? See who can come up with the best environmentally friendly design. I would love to see neighborhoods that have the cars and the garage in the back, and at the front of the house you have a big common green, and people have, like a...
So like Snoqualmie has
exactly like that, except they don't have the...
It's not walkable.
It's not walkable. Yeah. Ours will be, because you'll be walking distance to 3 different light rail stations. You also have that East Trail, the big north-south ped bike path going through there. We're going to be putting in the Grand Connection, which is going to be, that's that yellow line going east-west, and the East Trail is the green line going north-south. It also, the East Trail intersects the Mountains to Sound Greenway, takes you to Seattle, and I think all the way to Enumclaw or something. But it's just an amazing area that has so much potential, and we really want to connect it back to the downtown. So I'm really excited to see if we can actually, what if we put everything affordable housing in Wilburton? What if we put every housing we built there used an incentive and had affordability?
Yeah, and you figure with all the businesses coming in, that's a possibility, right?
Yeah.
Because there's no need to raise the property values unnecessarily. So how do you see technology playing a role in Bellevue's growth?
Well, in lots of different ways. Most directly, I think, we won awards for being a smart city. So we use technology in lots of different ways to manage City Hall, to manage the community. I think some of the most interesting ways are with transportation and public safety. So
the Bellevue Hop.
Oh, well, if you call that using technology, I'll go with you on that. And I love that. The, what's it called? It's called the Bellhop.
The Bellhop.
That's it. You download the Circuit app to get that. Have you taken that yet?
No, I've not.
Oh, you'll love it.
Yeah.
I take it like 3 times a day.
Really?
I'm all over on that thing.
Okay.
Yeah. You have to have like a 15-minute window. And to be honest, like every 1 out of 10 rides is a complete failure. But all the other 9 are fantastic. Yeah. But the technology I'm thinking of is at T-Mobile in their innovation lab. They're creating an app that they hope that automakers will install into the cars and that cyclists will install on their phone, and the phone will communicate to the car when they're dangerously close. So if you are about to make a right turn in front of a bike that you don't see, it's in your blind spot, it'll beep, make a sound. Or if a bike's about to cross in front of you, it'll hit your brakes. And so
hopefully it doesn't send the guy flying off his bike, though.
Well, it hit the car brakes, not the bike brakes. You can have fun with that. Yeah. So, that's great technology. We also are using it on the light rail trains to indicate if there is a car crossing in front of the train. I think we only have 2 at-grade crossings, and so we're going to use that to notify the transit driver, the sound transit driver, that there's about to be a collision before it happens.
Yeah, I think that'd be very important because I know in the South Lake Union Transit, there's been
and Rainier
several accidents. Yeah,
I know. But here's my favorite use of technology, and we've won a lot of awards for this. It's called video analytics. So they have cameras at the intersections that notice whether it's a car, a bus, a truck, a motorcycle, a bike, or a pedestrian, or anything else. And if you have 2 things coming in too close of contact, it raises a red flag. So they use machine learning to identify and to flag these things. And you have an intersection that has 3 near misses. They're going to fix it before we have a crash.
Really? So you'll adjust the lines?
They will adjust the lines. They'll adjust the lights. They'll adjust the lanes. They will see what is going on here, that this is happening.
That's impressive.
It is. And it's such a doable thing. We started out in partnership with Microsoft, and then we worked with another company. I think we're working with Microsoft again, but I have to give a lot of credit to Franz Lowenhurst, who is our staff member who spearheaded this project.
Yeah, that's impressive. You're using technology to improve the city.
Yep, we're using technology and utilities, doing the water reading. So my favorite utility fail is the family. We do water for Clyde Hill and at Medina and the Points communities. Somebody, not in Bellevue, was living on the water, and right before they went on vacation, their kid used the hose and put it in the lake. So nobody knew the hose was running. And then they went to Europe for a month.
Oh, wow.
And they came back and they had like a $20,000 water bill. And the funny thing is, the city was going to negotiate with them. They just said, would you take a check? You're like, yeah. That wasn't that big of a deal to them, like it would have been to me.
Yeah.
But anyway, the automatic readers will flag that before it goes on that long and call the city and get them to turn the water off. Yeah.
That's good. Prevent another $20,000 bill.
Yeah.
Public safety has been a big issue in a lot of cities, and even you see it in the news. I mean, what would you say Bellevue's doing to improve that? Because there's been interesting stuff that's happened recently.
Well, the funny thing is how you're asking the question. I could take that to mean two totally different things, but I'm going to take it to mean both.
Yeah.
So, criminal justice, social justice, super, super important to get the training, to not be typecasting people, to not be unfair to certain people versus other people, to be able to de-escalate, to not react in a violent way when somebody doesn't follow your instructions or doesn't seem to want to, but maybe they don't understand, or maybe they're having a panic attack.
Yeah.
There's so many things going on there, and I am really, really proud of our police department. We have been doing that training long before all the riots that happened. I mean, I have to just say, this whole thing, when you say George Floyd, well, how many hundreds of people did we lose to unfair violence from authorities before that? And I don't know why we decided to stop with that one. It hasn't stopped, but to stop and pause and think about it with him. But, that is something that absolutely had to stop. But you didn't see that as much happening on the West Coast as you did in other parts of the country.
Yeah, here we were pretty sheltered from that.
It was happening. It was, but not to the extent. And so in some ways it's worse because it was happening more secretly, not as up front. But our police has done a lot of training. We did an external review of our use of force policies and made a lot of changes. We found we had really good policies, but they weren't actually written as policies. They were recommendations. Our police department was following them, but they were not mandated to follow them. So we changed those all into mandates, and we did some other things as well. And we will be doing body cams. We're working that out with the police union, actually.
Yeah.
So we have to work that out. But so on that end, I'm really proud of our police and the changes that we have made and that we will continue to make. When we will always be in training. On the public safety side, we increased our police budget. When there were all this cries to defund the police, we increased the funding. We increased it by putting in that CCAT team. And like when I describe it, don't you just think that's the greatest thing, and who would fight it?
Yeah.
We had people fighting that.
Really?
Yeah. We put in transit police unit to just especially be with transit, because what we found is the transit police themselves have a 13-minute response time. Bellevue police has a 3-minute response time. If you're getting pummeled by somebody, that's a long time.
No,
Even 3 minutes is a long time.
Most fights last 30 seconds.
Oh, okay. So there you go. So I was, and if you have a family, you want to think that your children can go to a concert and come home on light rail at 1 o'clock in the morning, and you're not going to be scared for them.
Right.
So,
and that's going to be a new dynamic for Bellevue, is the light rail that's about to go live. Right?
That's
so
right.
How do you add that to the routine?
Right. Yeah. So we did put the transit police on for that. Trying to think how else we increased the budget. Oh, we just gave them a huge raise. Yeah. I think we are the second highest paid police department, and only second by just like a few dollars.
Yeah.
In this region.
So do you find a lot of public safety workers are wanting to transfer here and wanting to apply for jobs here?
Yes.
Right. So there's no shortage.
I would say it's because of the benefits and the salary, but it's also because of the climate where they're very much appreciated.
Yeah.
I mean, when we have a big protest, and the police are there,
Yeah.
they're there to protect the protesters.
Yeah.
They're there to protect somebody's freedom of speech so they can be safe while they express themselves.
Right.
And so it's kind of funny because during all the COVID stuff that was going on, there were lots of protests, and when the police would show up, people would, oh, the police are there to shut them down. It's like, no, you don't understand. They're there to allow them to do their rights in a safe way and keep everybody safe.
Until they're not.
Until they're not,
Yeah.
you know, and so they...
I thought Bellevue handled that incident really, really well.
I did too.
Yeah.
I was there.
Yeah.
I was actually marching.
Oh, wow.
We had two groups of marchers. We had the people like me who were marching for Black Lives Matter, and then we had a bunch of renegades that came in carpooling from who knows where.
Just to cause trouble.
Oh, it was very coordinated.
Wow.
They all had backpacks and earbuds, and they were very coordinated. They were ready for a fight. They're just like all jazzed up, ready for a fight. And the funny thing about that is, you know, Bellevue, it's a big city, but it's a small town. And all these people parked in obscure places thinking nobody would notice. And all the residents are like, wait a minute. There's 20 cars there. And everybody took pictures of the license plates because they just knew something was up.
Oh, I did that too. I just sent it in.
So they got pictures of every single person. But the thing I'm so happy about, that could have been so much worse than it was. Nobody died. The mall didn't get burned down.
Right.
And there was a huge potential for that.
Yeah, in some cities, freaking shopping centers burned down.
And we prosecuted everybody.
Yeah.
I personally called Dan Satterberg and said, you have got to prosecute these people because they'll be back.
Yeah.
And they did. And I have a list of all the people who got prosecuted. And so it was pretty impressive because there was rumors going on that nobody got prosecuted. Oh, they did. You just didn't hear about it.
Right. So just closing thoughts. I mean, looking ahead, what are some of the key goals or projects that Bellevue has that people can get excited about?
You know, I didn't answer one question back there very well, and I'm just going to go back to that for a minute about the plans for Bellevue. We're working on our comprehensive plan right now, and that's every 20 years.
And it's a 20-year vision.
It's a 20-year vision, and I think we do it every 10 years. And we're in the process of doing it right now. And if you go to the Bellevue website, you can weigh in on what you want to see for the future of Bellevue. More bikes, more sidewalks, more car lanes, more parks, lots of things. So one thing that we are committed to as a city is we're planning for 35,000 new units of housing and 70,000 new jobs. So we are planning for that. And the job thing, that's going to be easy. The housing thing is doable, but it's hard. But we have these areas of growth that are not tapped out. Downtown's only 70% built out. We have Bell Red. We have Wilburton. We have the Spring District. We have Eastgate. Eastgate has tremendous unlocked potential. That'll be our next big up-and-coming neighborhood. That's going to be super exciting. So, you know, we hope to... I always used to say, channel the growth into those areas and protect our single-family neighborhoods, but I can't say that anymore because they passed the House bill that allows densification of our single-family neighborhoods. So that's where the tree codes come in. You know, I'm fine with putting in multiple housing on one single-family lot as long as we don't take all our trees away, because trees are what provide character. So I think we have a lot of growth to look forward to. It's planned growth. It's very thoughtful growth. And it will take a long time to achieve it'll probably take 20 years to achieve all that. And who knows what will happen in that time period. But the one thing I know about the Pacific Northwest, we have water. And people will always gravitate to water. So you're going to get climate refugees. People will always be attracted to the Pacific Northwest. And I think that they will always be attracted to Bellevue because we're just a really pleasant place to live.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree.
Projects to look forward to, I'd say the Grand Connection is a just incredible project that will really benefit everybody, whether you live or work or visit here. We have a lot of great restaurants coming in.
Yeah, we have a Shake Shack coming, right?
Oh, yes. I forgot about that. And the Grand Connection, the big part of it, it has a lid park over 405, kind of like Clyde Warren Park, if you've ever been to Dallas. And so...
yeah, I was going to ask about that.
That's going to be incredible.
And that's where the Northeast 6 connects, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's not carved in stone how we're going to do that. Right now, we're just trying to do just the bare minimum crossing over 405, and actually the rest of the Grand Connection is already there. So if you walk from City Hall through the Transit Center, down that little hill by California Pizza Kitchen where that used to be, to Bellevue Art Museum, down to the downtown park, we got our gateway art piece in there called Pillars. And then go through the downtown park, through Old Bellevue, all the way down to Maidenbower Bay. That's the Grand Connection.
Okay. And this is just extending it.
This is extending it over the freeway, and then actually activating the Grand Connection with artwork, with plantings, with restaurants, with music. And my goal is, like, every day is Arts and Crafts Day on the Grand Connection.
Yeah. I think that's amazing.
So that, I'm super excited about that, and I think the more people know about that. And then, you know, just in the next 2 years, boy, things we've been working on for 10 years are going to come to fruition. So light rail coming in next spring.
Okay.
So April 2024, supposedly. That's the 2-line, I believe they call it, and it's just going to go from South Bellevue Park and Ride to Redmond to the Microsoft campus. But that's going to be incredible. That will activate a bunch of spaces that we've been working on with transit-oriented development, which wasn't very developed because there's no transit. So we're going to bring the transit in, and those areas will blossom. The East Trail, was it? How many miles of trail is that? It's like 40-something miles of trail from Renton's Coulon Beach Park all the way through Bellevue, over the trestle, the Heritage Trestle.
Yeah, because I see the construction going on.
Yep, down by Factoria. All the way through to Kirkland. Kirkland goes all the way up to Totem Lake, and then you'll also be able to go to Redmond and to Woodinville. Oh. So can you imagine, like, the wine...
That's a long walk.
The wine bike.
I've done that before.
That is long.
Yeah.
But I have an e-bike, so it makes biking far more feasible for me. But just to unlock the capacity of really riding your bike in a safe, enjoyable way, that's something to look forward to.
Oh, that's exciting. Well, thank you, Dr. Robinson, for coming on the show.
Thank you.
I really appreciate your insights, and I'm sure the audience would really enjoy learning more about the city and whatnot.
Well, you know, they know where to reach me.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for tuning into the show. If you found value in what our guests shared and what we share on the show, please feel free to share with your friends and family. We'd love to see you back here. Thank you again. And you can find us on pretty much every social media channel. You can find us on every social media channel, such as LinkedIn, Zeekin, YouTube, Facebook, X, TikTok, to name a few. iTunes and Spotify as well. Thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Step into the unscripted arena. Subscribe.